Hi there, this is Dr. Mu'in Hasib, the Accreditation Consultant and Quality and Safety Trainer with Lesson 3 on the most common CAB inspections deficiencies and how to avoid them. If you recall in Lesson 1, we talked about the following topics. What is CAB? CAB checklist. What do we mean by deficiencies or citations, and what are their types? Are deficiencies and recommendation the same? What are the most commonly cited standards by CAB and how to avoid them? In lesson 2, in lesson 2, we also talk about what are the most commonly cited standards by CAB and how to avoid them. In lesson 3, today's lesson, and lesson 4 and lesson 5 will also continue with the topic, what are the most commonly cited standards by CAB and how to avoid them. In addition to that, in lesson 5, I will be teaching you how to respond to citations and when and how to challenge a citation and what to send to CAB if you get cited and a subject summary. So let's start with lesson 3. We start talking about the 3 citations that are related to proficiency testing: the PT procedure, the PT evaluation report, and the PT attestation page. In a previous lesson, we covered the proficiency testing procedure, and we covered the PT attestation page, and we start talking about the PT evaluation report, which is number 1 on the list. So we said that the CAB PT evaluation report include one or more of the following. There is a graded result and an ungraded result. Under a graded result, you will see that you either have an acceptable result with no bias or exceptional codes, or acceptable result with bias, or unacceptable result. Under ungraded result, you will see exceptional codes like code 11, 24, 26, 27, 40, 41, which might or might not be counted against you. In the previous lesson, we talked about the acceptable result that shows no bias or exceptional codes, and we talked about also acceptable result that shows trends or bias. In today's lesson, I'm going to cover the graded result that are unacceptable, which count against you, which is counted against you. So unacceptable result, like I said, these will be counted against you. They're not good. You need to evaluate and you need to investigate. And you need to fill the PT evaluation report and the investigation and the PT investigation form. Sign and file, like I will show you. So usually if you print your PT evaluation report in color, the unacceptable result will be in red. Okay, but this is how it looks like. Okay, to summarize the investigation of the unacceptable PT, okay, if you get an unacceptable PT result, it may be caused by one of 3 things: clerical error, interpretation error, or analytical error. If it's a clerical error, that's an easy fix. Have 2 people enter the result to avoid the clerical error. Like I told you before, 51% or more of unacceptable PTs are due to clerical errors. Then if it's an interpretation error, like the one that I just showed you, okay, it's easy. You need just to retrain and make sure it does not happen again. If it's an analytical error, you need to dig further. Retest the original PT specimen if you still have it. If you get an acceptable result, just call it a random error and just sign and file. You're all done. If you still get an unacceptable result, You need to check for specimen problem, survey material problem, long-term system error, like I will show you on the next slides. So to investigate the unacceptable result, review your copy of the original PT answer sheet and look for clerical error, like transcription errors, transposition of answer, coding errors, miscalculation, or grading mistakes. Next, check with other CAB accredited lab to see if they have any issue with this particular PT sample or samples survey. Now, if they do, then you might conclude that it's a PT material, and you're probably going to end up doing an alternative assessment for that particular survey or part of it. If you find no issues there, then review QC result from the same day. Was the PT result accepted when the QC was out of control? Were there any QC shift or trends? Or was the QC maybe not done? Okay, maybe they did not do the QC on that day when they're in the PT. And believe me, it happens. I've seen it. Okay, next, if possible, retest the original PT sample. If repeat testing give you acceptable result, just call it maybe random error and just sign and file. If the repeat testing is still unacceptable, you should look on the look for the specimen identification and labeling error, specimen preparation for reconstitution or dilution error, pipetting problems, and aliquot evaporation, maybe due to delay between reconstitution and analysis. Also look for survey material. Examine the survey material for instability, contamination, chemical interference, and incompatible matrix effect or shipping delays. Also review previous survey to determine if this analyte was within the acceptable range or not. If it wasn't on the previous survey, that means you have a chronic issue that you need to take care of. Maybe you need to call the vendor, you need to call your engineer and have a look at your instrument or equipment. So to give you a live example, like with this one, a blood cell ID, it was the technologist reported as microsite, and the good response was just normal RBC. Okay, so you need to fill out the evaluation report. Acceptable, no, not 100%. Unacceptable, you put the test that was out. Exceptional code NA, bias NA, and then under comment you can write something like C form theory. Form theory is, for me, is the number for the investigation form. Okay, and then you fill the investigation form. You first fill the survey information on the top here. Then you pick the reason why what was the cause of the unacceptable PT, and we determined that it was a technical error. So then you need to write what happened. When you are writing your story, you need to be concise, precise, and to the point, and you need to be convincing. Your story need to be convincing. So what happened? Technologists missed identifying the cells, the corrective action you're going to take to prevent this, that you sat with the technologist and reviewed the cell and showed them the difference between a normal RBC and a microcytosis. And then evidence problem was successfully corrected. Usually I write, will monitor next time, because you really don't know if the issue will be fixed till you get another survey and you see how you will do on it. And then you sign and file. And the most important signature is the medical director or designee. Don't forget about the date. So in order to have a satisfactory acceptable PT performance, you need a 80% score if you have at least 5 challenges per PT event. This percentage could vary, depends on the number of challenges if you have less than 5. So again, when you are evaluating and investigating the PT evaluation report, you need to fill the evaluation report and the investigation report. Make sure that your medical director or designee sign the report. That's how your score will look like for your events or for your mailing. Like this was in 2015. This is B mailing number 2 and C mailing, and this is the A mailing for 2016. CAB continuously monitor you. They don't stop. So it's like a cycle, never ending cycle. Okay. So for this one, we just did because they had one mistake on the FH6A survey. They got an 80% score, but for the rest of them, for the rest of the test on the survey, they got 100%. So their average was 97, which is satisfactory. Now, if you are a CAB accredited or you submitted your application for CAB accreditation, then if you fail or you get an unacceptable PT, CAB will send you a notice called PT Exception Summary Notice, PTES notice. Okay. So if you get the first one, notice, which for an unacceptable result, they will tell you you need to investigate the issue and document it, but don't respond to us. Just keep it in your own file for the inspector to review if he or she asks about it. Okay. If you get unacceptable result for the same analyte twice in a row, 2 consecutive times, then CAB will send you another PTES report or notice, and they tell you you need to investigate the issue, okay, and send us a copy of the investigation and keep a copy in your file. Now, if you get 3 unacceptable results for the same analyte, 3 consecutive unacceptable result for the same analyte, CAB send you another PTES report or notice, and this time they will tell you to investigate. They tell you to send your investigation back to them, and in addition to that, they will tell you to cease testing. You cannot report that patient result till you pass 2 consecutive surveys. So I just covered the PT evaluation report for a graded result. We talked about acceptable result with no bias or exceptional codes. We talked about acceptable result that shows bias or trend. And I just finished talking about the graded result that are unacceptable, which counted against you. In the next lesson, we're going to talk about the ungraded result, the exceptional code, which might or might not be counted against you, depending on the code. I'm done with lesson 3 on the most common CAB checklist citations and how to avoid them. To continue with the subject, please go to lesson 4. In lesson 4, we'll continue with the same item. What are the most commonly cited standards by CAB and how to avoid them. Thank you very much for watching.